my name is Stephanie Johnson. And I'm not really sure how to tell you this, but we're surrounded. Sorry about that. As I said, we're surrounded. From the moment we wake up, we're exposed to hundreds, sometimes thousands of sounds each and every day. Even though they may be just seconds long, they have the power to direct our feelings, thoughts, and actions. Today, designers can distribute sound into virtually any device, from the fasten seatbelt sign on a 747 to a Mother's Day card. But this power brings with it specific challenges and obstacles. Audio feedback is rarely composed with respect to how and in what context the user will be listening. Many of the sounds we hear today have been relegated to the simplistic role of delivering affirmative feedback exclusively. The results are notorious. From car alarms that yell at us hysterically to appliances that beep, buzz, and shrill unintelligibly. They annoy us, distract us, and interfere directly with product's functionality. And while digital sound producing technologies have gotten more sophisticated, the way these sounds are used in design hasn't. Art forms, such as theater, film, and video games consider the emotional implications of select composed sounds carefully before implementing them into their respective formats. Why then should the sounds that orchestrate our quotidian lives be considered any less seriously? Today I will highlight the ways in which sound can be designed and used, both as a navigational tool and as a part of a brand's identity. But first, we need to go back. Although we don't hear them in their original modality, manually produced sounds are still very much with us. So much so that we often define modern sounds metaphorically in terms of their old counterparts. Old air raid sirens and church bells were designed based on the energy one person could deliver by cranking, shaking, or blowing. Later, electrically charged designs worked with the same sound activation principles in mind. A mechanical telephone would receive voltage, providing just enough power to repeatedly slap a metal bell in order to produce a ringing sound. The formal properties of these early sounds were based exclusively on the engineer's aesthetic, where the focus was on producing an energy-efficient signal rather than a miniature composition. Many of the design-bound sounds we hear today were codified decades ago, and we've grown so accustomed to hearing certain sounds in certain contexts that we react in a Pavlovian way. It is true that if designers were to completely overhaul established acoustic systems, especially in alarm devices, they would run the risk of disrupting our very delicate internal response systems. But this does not mean that sound systems are completely inflexible. In fact, subtle compositional changes to the familiar beeps and chirps in many devices can communicate very specific information to the user and in turn improve usability. This process, called audio sketching, involves linking an abstraction like sound with an adjective and can make an immaterial concept more tangible. It's difficult to pin down in terms of formal properties exactly what it is that makes a sound appealing or upsetting. Just like it's hard to say why you might prefer the Beatles to the Rolling Stones in terms of the formal properties of the music they make. However, it's easier for people to describe music in terms of its experiential properties or its personality. Elif Özkan, a sound researcher at Delft University, starts the process of acoustic sketching with the question, what physical features of a product could evoke friendliness? Designers could use rounded shapes, bright colors, or soft materials. And using this idiosyncratic approach, designers could search for a bathtub with a squeaky sound, a cat toy for its jingly sound, or a wooden chime for its full, round sound. And then she would analyze the spectral temporal content of the material collected and come up with physical sound descriptions. So in this case, we can understand that friendliness for sound means overlapping repetitive sonic elements with a rather high-pitched sound that has a short, round envelope. Using a similar audio sketching procedure for his study, design strategist Patrick Jordan and his team proposed the application of the following sounds to a chosen design: a sandwich maker. The designers imagined the following scenario to understand how this device would actually interact with the user in a realistic domestic setting. A person sits in his or her living room watching television while the sandwich maker toasts bread for a mid-show snack. 3 different sounds representing 3 different phases of the cooking procedure are implemented. One corresponds to the machine starting, one to the toast being browned, and one to the toast being burned. And the personality started as friendly and informative, but grows increasingly stern and authoritarian as the snack starts to burn. Since the product was associated with food preparation, the sounds also needed to evoke these properties. So in this case, as is the case with many sonified designs, the sound had 3 purposes: as a signal to inform the user of the state of the product, as a navigating sound to inform as to the degree of doneness, and as an identity sound to indicate cleanliness, hygiene, and efficiency. Subtle variances in tone and frequency can communicate specific information, and as a result, these sounds may be perceived as a necessary element of the physical design, rather than an ancillary embellishment. You now know that the acoustic elements can be improved in order to facilitate usage with industrial designs, but did you know that designers can create an aural equivalent to a graphic logo? Sound has the power to create a lasting impression of a brand, since it links directly to both the rational and emotional parts of our brain. It's been proven that sound is a strong memory trigger because it heightens the brain's ability to recall information. For example, sometimes we can tell what an object is just by the sound it makes. And by using only a few sounds, it's even possible for you to know what time of day it is. Certain sounds can make it seem as if we're dreaming. Or just tell us to wake up. Brands can take advantage of this anchoring in the brain by using their own sound sequence. It may make us want to turn on a computer, play a network game, chomp on a Big Mac, or even eat our veggies. These little tags are masterpieces of sonic branding, the 21st century spawn of the jingle that aim to capture a brand's ethos and pipe it directly into your mind. The oldest is the NBC chime. Commissioned in 1929, it's the first audio trademark ever patented. But sonic logos with such staying power are rare. Companies would almost never change the essence of a visual logo from campaign to campaign, but that happens with sound all the time. Our other senses are rarely incorporated in the design process, and when they are, they're unfortunately an afterthought, tacked on at the last minute. With proper treatment, however, companies can use audio to build a powerful branding platform that can be used to identify the brand in every language and across every touch point. My research, which focuses on sound in action as a dynamic tool used to structure everyday experiences, is the first thorough examination of sounds used in design specifically. And over the course of the next year, I plan on launching a podcast and platform to examine how these sonic snippets have the power to change our relationship with the design world. Building upon this foundation, I hope to highlight shifting perceptions about sound's place in 21st century design, and to bring it closer to the design discipline's core concerns. Thank you.
I feel like it would be...
Hello there. Ooh, too loud. Too much sound. No, I feel like there should be a laugh track now, saying applause for the audience. So Stephanie, what part of our culture now do you think needs sound design, cries out for sound design?
I feel like a lot of the sounds implemented in products, like I said, are very much an afterthought, and they only really deliver affirmative feedback when they really could tell us so much more. They could be really facilitate usage versus just being an annoyance in many cases.
So do you have any specific examples that you can think of besides the one that you talked about?
I suppose the subway system is a very good example. I know that Ben Rubin did a study several years ago where he examined the swipe signal that we hear when we swipe our Metro card. And it's very easy to confuse a successful swipe with a swipe again and a failure swipe. So that's a perfect example of something that, we use it really in haste. We use it very quickly. And if the sound was a little bit more recognizable for each of those different signals, we might actually catch more trains.
That's interesting. And I guess finally, is sound branding a growing field? I mean, I've never really heard of it before, but it seems like it's incredibly important given the fact that we're all on devices, and it seems like sound is an overlooked component.
It is, definitely. The thing with sonic branding is that it really translates over different languages. So you could use the same sonic sequence for different companies, and you don't have to worry about what country it's in. It's translatable. So I think that's really powerful if companies decided to use it. In many cases now, the sounds used are just those used in a commercial, which are very ephemeral and they're used only for that purpose. There's no longevity. So I feel like if it were used for the long term, it could be incredibly powerful. For example, the NBC sound logo actually predates the peacock. So that just proves that it's something that we immediately hear and we recognize as being a part of that company.
Okay. I think that's good for now. We look forward to reading your blog and kind of cataloging sound design for the future.
Thank you.
Okay.